A few weeks ago, I read this incredible book, The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, A New History of the Lost World by Steve Rusey, and it blew my mind. For such a simple read, it's incredibly insightful and incredibly gripping, and I truly recommend that you read it for yourself. But for now, here's 20 things I learned about dinosaurs. New species are found every single week. Yes, you heard me, every single flipping week. There are two different types of fossils, body and trace. Body fossils are those bones, those skeletons, those feathers, the literal fragments of what was once a dinosaur. Whereas trace fossils are your footprints, burrows, bite marks, the evidence of their existence which has somehow made it to us today. At the start of the Triassic period, the kind of era where dinosaurs really started coming about, they weren't the top of the food chain. The most dangerous predators were kind of giant frogs, toads, newts, salamanders, obviously not like the ones that we have now, but think much bigger. This, Pangaea, this is how the Earth used to be, a supercontinent where you could have access to the whole of the globe. But about 240 million years ago, this continent with some dinosaurs on it started splitting and dividing. Also, for some reason during this period, lava was just spewing up from the earth as the crust was being split apart, and it destroyed a lot of animals and species, but for some reason the dinosaurs started thriving. Sauropods, or for those of you who grew up on the land before time like me, you know, long necks, they have an incredible lung system just like birds. This basically means that every time they breathe in and out, they extract oxygen on both the breathing in and the breathing out process, unlike us pathetic humans who can only do it on breathing in. This basically means that they have extra efficient lungs, just like modern day birds, and it allowed them to grow to their gigantic sizes and survive and thrive. T-Rexes, the most famous dinosaur of all time, the bad boy of their generation. They only lived in North America, right? Yes, this isn't like US propaganda, but it is truth. They lived in North America. They had some distant cousins in Asia, but the reality was these were the two biggest land masses where they could actually grow and thrive, but also places like Europe, most of it was underwater. Dinosaurs, believe it or not, or at least most of them, were actually feathered. This doesn't mean that they could fly, but it was used for warmth, for like mating rituals, you know, the same way like peacocks have these like giant feathers and like they attract people, all that kind of stuff. But interestingly, following our feathers, did you know that all birds have evolved from dinosaurs? Yes, you heard me right. Our modern day birds are the closest thing we have to dinosaurs now. Yes, the seagull, the mighty seagull, its great uncle was a velociraptor. Just like modern day animals and ecosystems, the world of the dinosaurs thrived in many different ways across the globe. If you traveled around the world, you would have found so many different species, so many different ecosystems, all diverse and unique. There were even, right, mini dinosaurs. So just like today as well, they were scattered across islands across the globe. And on these islands, little mini ecosystems existed in which there were apex predators and there were not apex predators. I forgot what the other terms would be, but they were all miniature. We're not talking like a shrunken down T-Rex, though it's kind of like that. But just imagine these miniature dinosaur ecosystems. I think they'd be well cool. If you are enjoying this video so far, if you have learned something, please consider dropping this video a like and subscribing to my channel to see more videos like this. I really appreciate it, but let's carry on with what we're learning. So now it's time for a bit of a T-Rex special. The first fact is that T-Rexes hunted in packs. Yes, I know that is a terrifying thought. Not, you know, just the fact that they're like 30, 40 meters long. They're giants. They could chew a car in half. But equally, they hunted in packs. They hunted, you know, in coordinated attacks. That is terrifying. T-Rex's arms were actually surprisingly strong. Although, nowadays they're kind of a bit of a meme, like T-Rexes having these little arms, which they didn't feel like they could do much. But actually, experts say that these arms, even though they were short in size, were surprisingly strong and useful for gripping onto their prey. T-Rexes were relatively fast. I mean, they weren't like massively fast, but they were also definitely sprinters. In films like Jurassic Park, you may see a T-Rex sprinting after a Jeep going like 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, but that just would not have happened. Their top speed was probably about 20, possibly, and they definitely couldn't have gone over that long distance. So for all you Jurassic Park fans like me, don't worry, you would have got away in the Jeep. Also, another thing to disprove is that T-Rexes could definitely see you if you stood still. They could see depth, they had a brain that just like ours that could see in a similar way. And if you see a T-Rex, run. They had intelligence pretty much relative to chimps. So were they the most clever animal ever? No, because probably at the moment we'd say humans are, but chimps in relative schemes compared to the animal kingdom, they're pretty clever. And the fact that T-Rexes were pack hunters, that they were they could sprint, that they were just machines, and that they're pretty clever, that just makes them even more terrifying. And finally, for our T-Rexes, this may be common knowledge, but they were the kings of the world they lived in before it all came crashing down. The asteroid that was roughly 6 miles wide came crashing down onto the Earth almost 66 million years ago and wiped out 70% of the species on Earth. Only really like the small animals or some of the flyers survived. And when this happened, right, the most crazy thing happened. Like the crust of the Earth literally became like a trampoline. And so you know how normally the Earth would be flat? It suddenly went like this in 2 waves. There was the first wave that apparently would send even T-Rexes like 30 meters into the air and then crashing down to Earth. And then if they somehow survived that, there came a second wave that again just launched them up into the air and came crashing down. And finally, those dinosaurs which somehow survived the trampoline-like crust, they were then probably disintegrated by molten rain. Ouch. And so there we go, that is 20 things I learned from this amazing book. I highly recommend it. It was such a fun read, and I promise if you read it for yourself, you'll get even more out of it. I've been Ash Porter. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.